bum, bum, bum. How's the sound? Sounds good. YouTube's live. LinkedIn should be up in a sec. Alright, I think I'm gonna start, because LinkedIn normally takes a little bit. Alright, welcome everybody. Good to see you again until yesterday. After yesterday. Today we're back. Today we're back on stream. We're gonna continue building the RAG agent. For those of you that missed it last time, what we're building is basically sort of a chat interface where you can interact with an AI. And so first you would input a bunch of documents. So in my case, it's focused on research, but I think in the end product, you'll also be able to use it, for example, for studying and just put in like PDF documents. And then it's going to use that as its like training set. So then when you ask it questions through an interface, it can answer those questions and also refer to the documents that you provided to it. So in like, let's say in the case of like studying, you're provided with like your lecture slides in PDF format. It like chunks the information in there and it puts it into its training set. So when you ask it questions, it looks up the documents that are most similar to the prompt you gave it, and then using that, it answers your question and it references the specific like the chunks of the data that that you fed into its training set to answer your specific question. So it gives you references to the question you're asking. Life updates since yesterday, not really much. It's been pretty rainy today. So I haven't really gone out. Well, no, actually I did go out. I had to fix something with like my credit card that was not working, and I spent my whole lunch doing that, and then I had to just eat at my desk, but it's fine. And then I got like a frame like a second ago, so I'm trying to decorate, well, you can't really see it, but like my wall in my room. But for now I'm just chilling at home. I think that's what I'll do for the rest of the day. Okay, well, I'm just gonna get started. We'll see how long the session ends up being. And we'll get started with the Lorcana card of the day. This was from yesterday. Okay, so like I mentioned yesterday, I just added the new set 13. I don't know if it's different cards. We looked a little bit over them yesterday. Some cool stuff, but we haven't got it yet. I mean, it's like a 1 out of 13 chance, I guess, if you consider that all sets have the same amount of cards, which isn't really the case. But they have more or less the same amount, so it's like roughly 1 in 13 to get set 13, which is not great odds. We might not get it for a while. We'll see. But today's card of the day is it's Coda, Talkative Talkative Cub. It's a 2-cost inkable. Inkable means you can use it as resources. So to have resources in Lorcana, you basically put one of your cards in your inkwell, which is your resource pool. So you can use this and put it in your resource pool. It has 2 strength, 1 willpower. It's a Storyborn ally, and its ability is Tell Everybody. During opponent's turns, you can't lose lore. It quests for 2, and it's by artist 3's Buildafall. It's card 1 out of 204 from set 5. Set 5 would have been Shimmering Skies. Yes, set 5 is Shimmering Skies. It launched in August 2024. It says, I mean, I don't want to brag or nothing, but I got some moves. It's, well, like here's this in Lorcana, and it like credits the DMCA. So like this is the song On My Way, Collins. I think this is the song that this moment is referencing, maybe. On My Way song, Disney. From Brother Bear. I don't think I've watched Brother Bear. Oh, I probably shouldn't watch this live because the copyright. Okay, well, you can go watch it on your own time. Maybe I'll send the link. Why not?
I really want.
I'll just send the link on chat. So that's the Lorcana card of the day. Actually I want to see what this looks like on LinkedIn. If I go just that, and then so here, oh, it's just a comment on the thing. Yeah, that works. Okay, let me go over the rest of the things. So, a quest for 2 lore. And, yep, I've gone over all the information. So, is this card good or not? It's not, like, it's not a really good card, but it's not bad. So, okay, the effect, it doesn't really do much for it. Because normally during your opponent's lore, there are cards that make you lose lore. Like, for example, I think it's called a Pirate's Life. Pirates. Yeah, a Pirate's Life. Each opponent loses 2 lore, you gain 2 lore. So technically, if you have this card, and they play this, you don't lose lore, they just gain the 2 lore. It's nice to have. There's a bunch of red cards that do this. Lose lore. When you play this character, each opponent loses 1 lore, and they're all, I mean, I'm assuming they're not only in red. Lose 1 lore, lose 1 lore, lose 2 lore. Yeah, so there's a lot of cards that do that, but they're not that popular. Like, you might have some, but they're not like meta defining or anything. So most of the time, this is gonna sit doing nothing. The only thing why I say it's not a bad card is because the stat line is decent. So like, it's a 2 cost that quests for 2, so that means you can aggro early. This 2/1, it's not great. I will say, like, this is the thing that sucks the most for this card, because you can get two cost cards that with 2 lore with way better stat lines, but it has a bad stat line because it has this ability, which actually is not great. So it's not an amazing card. If we see, okay, let's filter just by yellow cards, and then, okay, and then you can do it through here. But if we filter lore 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we filter cost 2. These are all the cards that quest for 2 or more that are cost 2. So, for example, this one, way better. Like, you have a horrible stat line, but you quest for 3. This one, unless you have a character for more play, if this one's hard to get, like, going, but it's possible for you to do it. This one has always been pretty good. This one is pretty good. It gives resist +1, and then you remove up to 2 damage. If we have a character, is fine. Why am I not seeing the? Oh yeah, it's right here. Okay. So honestly, it's kind of like half of the way there. Like, it's okay. Like, this is a better card because 1/3 is probably better than 2/1. This is a better card because it quests for 3. These stat lines are meh. So it's kind of like one of the better ones because having 2 strength and instead of being a 1/2 being a 2/1 is actually pretty good because you trade with like some beefier stuff at the beginning. But overall, the ability doesn't do much for it. It's an okay stat line. It's an okay card. Not the worst we've reviewed, I'd say. Oh, actually, I wanted to check YouTube Studio, I think. Because somebody told me that they couldn't like chat if they didn't have an account. So I'm gonna check on that, see if it's like a setting or something. Content live. How do I see the settings? Live chat. Who can send messages? Anyone. See, I feel like it should work. Like, I don't think you need to have a YouTube channel, but just an account should be fine. Comments on moderation basic. Channels I subscribe to can redirect to my content channel guidelines. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. I think you should be able to chat without a YouTube channel, just like an account. Okay, well, I don't know what that's about. 2 out of 2, okay, good. Alright, so let's get started. I've spent like 10 minutes. Okay. So let's get back into the project. Not what I meant to do. And so let's go to I feel like it's gonna be in WSL, yeah. I might have to create a couple of these. I should have a better way to do this. Okay. Just open a couple windows, and now, so where were we before? Actually, let me open my plot chat. Not that, not that, this. Okay, so I just wanted to, if you're using a solution file, this is what you used to run the project. So I'm gonna save this in like a file locally. What does this use? Bash run.sh. It's .sh. Did I do .sh? Yes, I did. Okay, so now I can do like run.sh and then it should run. Okay, so now what we're doing is, if we go back and read what Claude told us last time. So right now, okay, how the app works, and let's just use the script to like show how what the app does so far. I have to do chmod. Chmod minus x. And now I should be able to plus x. Okay. Localhost 5278 /chunk, was it? There you go. So what it does so far is it chunks all of the text in the PDF. Currently we're using like a sample PDF. And it chunks it into 500 word Okay, that's the first part we need to add is 500 word chunks. And so like it does the 500 word chunks and it separates them. So, but like you are also able to give it like an overlap. So it's not like like for example, the first 500 words and then from 500 to 1,000 and from 1,000 to 1,500. No, like there's some overlap in between. So if you see here, this new thing, it starts with and diseases, prevalence, and diagnosis. If you look up that, it grabs from like a little bit from like this part. I think, what's the setting to? The setting is to, what is it? I'm just gonna look up overlap. Chunk PDF. 50. 50 words is the overlap. So that's what it does right now. There's two problems with it with the current implementation. So let's pull out the paint. In the current implementation, you have your document. Let me draw that better. You have your document. And right now, it's pulling into chunks of 350 words. And then this is one chunk. And then the next 350 words is going to have some overlap. So it's going to be like this. And this is going to be same 350. But this space right here is 50. And this is the second chunk. Chunk 1, chunk 2, etc. There's a problem. First problem is it's currently doing it in words. Actually, I don't think this is a problem, but it's currently doing it in words. I remember Claude recommending instead doing it in tokens, because that's how the LLM thinks. However, I don't know if that's what makes the most sense. It might make the most sense for the LLM, but semantically, you want to stop like at a paragraph or a sentence. You don't want to stop at like a token, because that could be like half a word, or it could be 2 words. Like you could have like cut it word in half. So I don't really feel like tokens is the right choice. And also, like when you're pulling the information back to provide to the user, you don't want there to cut in like half. So let's just use words. I think that's what makes the most sense. However, I did talk about something else right now, and that is we're picking 350 words, and so like right now we're focusing on research, so we're gonna have an abstract, and then like the introduction, and etc., the methodology. And so the problem now is, let's say we chunk 350 words from like here. So we're gonna grab a little bit of the abstract and the beginning of the introduction, which I don't think it's great from an application perspective. I think it should stop in between sections, chunk inside sections, so you're not contaminating, like you don't have 2 different sections in one chunk. And second of all is just picking 350 words no matter where it stops. So it might literally be, and it is, like here, it might just stop in the middle of a sentence. It might stop in the middle of a sentence. We don't want it to do that. What does it consider a word now that I'm thinking about it? Topics covering. Oh, so I think it's separated by spaces. AT, impact of neurodivergent conditions and individuals. So yeah, I think a word is anything in between spaces. how do we difference between sentences then? A sentence is, it ends with a period. So I think that's how we difference between them. Because, okay, then the next stage is, ignore the thing about contamination, like having two sections inside it. The problem we're facing right now is we have our content and it might just stop in the middle of a sentence like this, ranging B and a parenthesis. And I don't think that's how it should be. I think it should stop like when a sentence ends. So we have to figure out a way so that it chunks at 350 words if it can, and it's in a sentence. Or otherwise, the next less thing than that, that's, you can do like a paragraph. Yeah, so try to find like a paragraph that to end on, and if it can't find a paragraph to end on, find the previous sentence. Should it be previous sentence and the previous paragraph, or previous paragraph and the previous sentence? Because it might find... I think just previous sentence. I think don't even bother about paragraphs. Because if it tries to do paragraph first, it might create like a really small chunk. We don't want it to do that. So I think it's better to just do sentences. So try to finish in a sentence. So we're going to tell it, try to finish at 350 words if you can. If not, look for anything less than 350 words that ends with a period. And like finish the chunk there. That's part one. We're going to call this part one. Part two is going to be look at the sections of the text and then chunk inside the section. So instead of like chunking the whole PDF, we're going to have a chunk section. Which actually we don't need a chunk section function. We can just pass a section to our chunk function. But now we're gonna need inside here, we're gonna say parse sections. And then let's say dot abstract or something, or it's gonna be probably like an array. Parse section 0. Or even, I'm just gonna write it better. So this is problem 2. We want that for each parse sections, for each section in parse sections, basically, we chunk it. Chunk section. This is part 2. So we have to build this parse sections function. But that's going to be part 2. Part 1 is what I think is easiest. So, okay. Chunk PDF is right here. Ooh, okay, so we're gonna have to modify this a little bit, I think. Because right now we pass the path. I think in theory this should be instead like an enumerable of words. Like this, what you get in here. And then it goes over it. But okay, let's just go with this implementation and then we'll refactor after. Return page info. Page info is an array of words. words. Nearest neighbor word extractor dot instance. What does that do? So I guess it's like a different way of getting words. Word extractor. Nearest neighbor word extractors. Leverage bounding boxes. I think I might be better off reading the documentation. So, PDFig. Word extractors, I'll get words. Letters. And letters in this case is just no preprocessing. Okay. What does page.letters return? Set of letters drawn by the PDF document. Okay, so it's just another way to parse it, I guess. Oh, document layout analysis is going to be useful for the sections. Okay, I'll take a look at this later. For now, I know this is working, so we're gonna implement our solution. So, okay. Basically, before we add to the chunks, before we end the chunk and start the next one, above the counts, okay. Before we do this, before we add the chunks in there, we'll go from the end backwards. We'll go from the end backwards and try to find a period, a chunk that, like a word that ends in a period. And then we'll end it there. Okay. So, probably create another function here. Private, what is it going to return? Like a position? Like it's going to return an index? What if there's no periods at all? Just return -1 and then return the whole thing, I guess. We gotta work some things out here. But let's just say private int, we're gonna return the index and then find last sentence. And so here, what is it gonna take? It's gonna take chunks. Like it's gonna take the buffer. The buffer is a list of words. It's gonna take the buffer here. Okay, let's path return a value. Okay. So starting from the end, I assume this is just like in C, how you manage like lists. So buff, is there buff the length? Nope. Dot size. There's no buff the length and no buff that size. Size of buff. Buff the count. Oh, okay. So count. So buff the count -1. I bigger than or equal to 0. I minus minus. So starting from the end and going back, trying to find a period, and if so, return it. Okay, but what if it ends in an ellipses? So not necessarily end in a... Okay, let me think. Because my logic here is, how do I find a sentence? A sentence is something that ends in a period. So find the last word that ends in a period. But what if you have an ellipses? I guess that is a sentence. How do you define a sentence? A complete phoneme consists of a subject and a predicate and begins with a capital letter and ends with a period, question mark. Oh, okay. Period, question mark, or exclamation point, right. Can a sentence end with an ellipsis? Can end. Okay. So I'm just going to say it ends in a period, a question mark, or an exclamation point. That's how I'm going to define a sentence, and then if that definition changes in the future, we update it. So find last sentence. So we get the current word. Current word equals buff of I. Okay, so now we check if current word what is the word interface? The text of the word. What does toString do? I guess it just probably inherits it. I bounding box. You know what? I'm not gonna worry about that. I'm just gonna assume the interface works. So if current word dot toString, and then minus whatever the length. Okay. So actually, this is gonna be. We're just gonna use a string, and this is buff I dot toString. Okay. Now we don't have to worry about this. So if current word, can you index with -1? How to access the last character of a string C#. What? I'm just not gonna use this because this is not intuitive to me. I'm gonna read this and I'm gonna have no idea what I'm reading. But good to know. I'm just gonna say current word dot length -1. So if the last character is equal, there might be a, okay. Compare In C sharp, how do you compare a variable to multiple values without writing a long conditional? With a switch? Ooh, okay, I like this. This is like Python. C sharp 12 and up. Well, let's do that. So, if period, question mark, exclamation point. Do I see any other symbols that might end the sentence? I do not. So dot contains per word. It doesn't like it. There is no target type for the collection expression. I'm comparing strings. Okay, now this seems wrong. I wouldn't do this. I think maybe just a case. Switch. This is not the switch expression I'm using. I'm used to. Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess it's a little bit different here. No, you can't just do it like this. I'm gonna do it like I'm used to. Okay, so switch cur word dot length -1. Do that, and then case than or that or that. In that case, if it's any of those, we return the current index. Return I. What is it gonna say? To convert it, indexing can be simplified. What do you want to convert it to? Index operator. Yeah, I don't feel like doing that. Cannot implicitly convert string to char. Okay, fine with me. Okay, I think that should work, and if it doesn't find a period at all, just return -1. Because it didn't find it. So it just goes over every word until it finds the correct one. So, before we add the chunk, okay, so we get find last sentence of our buffer. Now we have this. An object reference required for the non-static field, but yeah, that's fine. Now we get the index right here, and what are we gonna do with it? We're gonna create a subarray, or a subbuffer. How to slice a list C#. Oh, with a span. Can a slice take? No, it takes the length. What about get range? Skip 2, take 2. Skip the that no. Index data structures. Ah. Okay, I guess I can compute the slice. So this is the last sentence. Let's see. Is this just the index? Okay, let me think. Just say this is my sentence. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Part ABC. So, and I get 5, 6, 7. So I would get 4. So if I tell it start from index 0 and take 4, it would do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it would ignore this one. So I need to tell it to take 4 plus 1. To take 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna slice our buffer, buff.slice, from 0 to find.last sentence plus 1. An object reference. We have to make this static too. Slice can be simplified. Use range operator. Okay, we have, so I guess you can slice. What the hell? So this is what we're gonna add to the chunks. Can we do strings.join with a space? And that, and that, and that. String.join. Check vehicle join, but does not use a new string instance that the method returns. Pass the instance as an argument to another method assign, or remove the call if it is unnecessary. And now we do chunks.add. And we have to do this as long as it's not -1. Okay, so maybe to make it easier, what do you call it? List of word chunk is going to be equal to that, I believe. Now, if chunk no. So don't return minus. So that way we don't have to do all this. Okay. So if it just doesn't have like it doesn't have a period at all, then what we're gonna do is we just return the end. Oh, so we'd return buff.count -1. There you go. And now we can just do this. And then we remove the range from 0 to the chunk size minus the overlap. Minus the overlap minus, okay, so minus the last index. Can this return an error if the count is like a negative number? Yes, it can. I don't think it would ever do that. Unless there's like very long sentences. But it is a possibility. It's the one that I'm worried about. Like, it would have to be an extremely long sentence. How do I handle it then? Do you guys get what I mean? Basically, okay, let me just erase this whole thing. Our chunks are 350 words long, and it's 50 overlap. So let's say in this 350 thing, like our sentence is like this whole, okay, the first sentence, the last sentence it finds is at character 30. It ends at character 30. And then, so this whole blabber is ignored. So I want to recompute the overlap. So the overlap would go, if you go like the 50 overlap, it goes before this. So we go into -20 basically, and then it would give an error. Now, so then what I see here is okay, what happens then? My overlap would just I wouldn't remove anything then. I would just get these 30 plus whatever's the rest. Yeah, so can I just do min? How to get minimum value C#. Literally math.min. Okay. Why do they always have like a math package? I think that's so dumb. That should be just in the main like name thing. Between that and 0. And now it's gonna be, okay, so it's gonna be chunk size minus overlap. Wait, but this is at the end. Now I'm confused because I think I drew this wrong. Okay, so our chunk is, so like let's say, okay, like we know this example, right? Now let's make it simpler. So now our chunk is going to be 30 words long because of the issue we described before. So then we're going to delete everything. In this case, we delete nothing. we just keep the whole thing because our chunk size is less than our overlap. So this whole thing is going to overlap. This whole chunk is going to be overlapped. But then, what's the point of this chunk then? If it's just going to be repeated somewhere else. You know what I mean? Okay, this is a very unlikely scenario. I don't think I need to handle that. In that case, just let it be duplicated. I don't mind. So yeah, minimum of that and 0. No, sorry, maximum. The maximum of that and 0, because if it's a negative, we don't want it to be a negative. And we remove, like, maybe just remove 0 in that case. So this removes to the least the previous sentence. Above the count that chunks that add, flush whatever's the rest. Yeah, flush whatever's the rest. That is fine. Name rule violations. These words must begin with uppercase characters. Final last sentence. Okay. That's fine. Okay, we've saved that, and now let's test it. Run. Perfect. This is gonna be /chunk. Let's do pretty print. And so now it should end in a sentence. Yes, it ends in a sentence. Does it have to begin in a sentence? Ooh. So now the overlap matters too. Do we need the overlap then? Maybe it should overlap like a sentence. Like that's the overlap. So then it would overlap from here. I mean, also, I feel like the LLM should be smart enough to figure out the context from, like, small parts. Free of judgment of social stigmas or result content O and autism spectrums. Okay, does it send in a sentence? Well, let's just check if we did it right. Does it send in a sentence? Yes. Ends in a sentence, ends in a sentence, ends in a sentence. Ends in a sentence, sentence. Okay. Seems to be working. Okay, so this ends J dot what? J dot P. Oh, so yeah, this in this case is in a sentence, but how do you distinguish? Like, I don't think you can do anything about this. Okay. Well, I'll just take it as is. Do we do the overlap of a sentence? Or do we just leave it as is? I mean, if we're caring about it ending not in like just the middle of a sentence, we should care about it starting not in the middle of a sentence. And so I don't think I ever handled the chunk size minus overlap. I don't think I ever handled the sentence here. It's minus overlap minus wherever it ended. The wherever the chunk ended. Minus however many letters we removed. So then from this buffer, we should also remove from the overlap until we get to the beginning of a sentence. Let me think about this a little bit. Okay, let's try again. Let's say we have our chunk here. So what we're doing, and like this is our overlap. What we're doing is we're removing this, which is equal to chunk size minus overlap. We remove the range from chunk size minus overlap, so this is like this right here is chunk minus overlap. But we also know that we didn't end up going up to the chunk size. We actually ended up doing less. So that means this chunk size is not going to actually be this whole thing. It's not going to be that whole thing. Okay, let me think. Is it going to be more or less? Because if it's more, I don't mind. Okay, the chunk that we ended up adding was this much, right? So by doing this much overlap, we're actually overlapping less. Because if we did the overlap counting from here instead, we'd be overlapping more of like the previous one. Like here we're including something that wasn't there. I'm not making a lot of sense. So this should actually be it should be from here to here, like this should be the overlap instead. So instead of chunk size minus overlap, it would be chunk size minus this much, which is however much we ignored, minus the overlap. How do we find how much we ignored? So here we go from 0 until the character of the last instance. Okay, so we shouldn't do it from the chunk size, we should do it from here. Which the index of this word So it's not chunk size, it would be like this same expression. I don't know if +1. Not the same expression. I don't think it's +1. Let's test it. So let's say I have part minus ABC. So then up here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now what is gonna happen is my final last sentence is gonna return 4. Right? And then we want an overlap of, let's say, 2 characters. So then we're gonna remove 4 minus 2, which would be 2. So it would remove from, is this inclusive though? Is the remove range inclusive? Oh, it's a count. So it's a count of the amount of characters we're removing. So we're getting 4 minus 2 is 2. We're removing 2 characters. No, we should be removing 3 because we want to keep 2. So this is actually +1. Okay, now if we do here, okay, so our final last sentence is going to return 4. I'm going to say it's 5 total characters. Minus our overlap is 2. So we say 3, so we remove the first 3. 0, 1, and 2, and we keep 3 and 4 of overlap. That should work. Okay. And we do the max of that and 0. Otherwise, we just take the whole thing. Okay, we've handled the sentence. Now, for our overlap, we should find the nearest sentence start and then go until there. We should have like a method like this that is fine for a sentence. This should probably actually be not in PDF management, but it's fine. Fine for a sentence, and it's gonna do the reverse. It's gonna go from 0 until above that count, and then ++. If it's any of these, return I, otherwise return the end. Yeah, it wouldn't be the beginning, it would be the end. Just go until the end. Okay, now here in this case, so okay, we have defined for a sentence. So we can remove it in parts, I guess. Yeah, let's remove it in parts. It's never gonna be less than 0. So we remove that. So this is us removing the whatever we didn't use from the last sentence. Whatever's removing from the beginning. We're looking for like this number. So what are we removing here? I need to figure that out. Here what we have removed is, let's say this was the first chunk, and like our actual chunk ends up being a little bit less. Second chunk. Now we want to figure out the overlap. Does removing, no, that doesn't do anything for us. This is just for the final reference. Okay, let me just undo all this that I did. So we basically have to do the minimum of like the whole length of the buffer. You have to find the minimum of like the whole length of the buffer, which is, I believe, this. The minimum of that and our like our overlap, which would be this. Finding a minimum. Why is this so confusing? Okay, we're trying to find this overlap. This is our overlap. And what the number we're actually trying to find is this number right here, because this is the number of characters we're removing, which makes it so much more confusing instead of like just being able to slice. So to find this amount of characters, we find this index and we add 1, correct? This index right here is going to be the end of my chunk, which is find last sentence buff. That's the end of my chunk. I'm confused what I'm trying to do here. Okay, give me 1 second. We're using find first sentence. We created that function. How do we use it? So we do this removal of like, okay, so this point right here is gonna be find last sentence minus overlap. Plus 1. Find last sentence minus overlap plus 1. This is what it's going to be. And then we're going to do the minimum of that and then 0. The maximum of that and 0. Okay? That is going to give us this right here. And now, so now we get this chunk. After we get the overlap chunk, we're going to look for the next beginning of the sentence in here. So let's say there's a period A, then we're looking for just this. So we remove we get just the overlap, and now we buff dot remove range again from 0 until find first sentence above plus 1. So if it ends here, we just remove the whole thing. And if it ends here, we remove this portion. So now the overlap should always start in a sentence. I think this makes sense. Let me try it. I think we talked about yesterday about looking at edge cases, and before just running. Thinking about all the edge cases for this is not great. Okay. That's not what I meant to do. I meant to do Control F. It starts in a sentence. It starts in a sentence. This one doesn't start in a sentence. Oh, it does. Does this start in a sentence? 2022. It does. Oh, this is gonna be problematic because. How do you distinguish between et al? Like, this is not the end of a sentence. It's like an. How to distinguish between short form and the end of a sentence. Well, actually, not short form. It's called an abbreviation. That's the word I was looking for. The grammar approach, human reading. The NLP approach. Ignore it. Just ignore it. I think the LLM can figure it out at that point. I guess finding sentences is not as easy as just like, oh, when there's a period at the end. Especially in research, when you have so many of like et al, like citations, and like you have things like this, which is not actually the end of a sentence, it's instead like a table or something like that. Okay, what about this part? Okay, but I think it's working. We can ask an LLM to review our logic in a second. So we're able to, so like how it works, right now, what we've done is we have our chunk of 350 words. This is our chunk. Now we don't want that chunk, so let's say this is just blah blah blah. I'm just gonna, and then there's a, I don't know, like something that says hi here period about that you don't want it to end here. You want it to end, you want it to end here. So what our thing does is it finds the last sentence, and this is the chunk that it's actually going to take. It's not going to take the full size. So we remove this from the chunk, and this is going to be your chunk. And now the overlap we calculate is this. This is our overlap of 50, let's say. However, we don't want it to be in the middle of a sentence starting the overlap. So let's say this says hi about. We're going to cut this part and start at the beginning of the sentence. So our overlap is going to be a little bit less than 50. We're going to overlap to the first sentence we find within the 50-word overlap. And yeah, that's good. Okay. Now, okay, first of all, let's do something here. Let's ask Claude to review the logic. Review the logic of my code for sentence sensitive chunking with overlap, and let me know if there's any issues. Oh, I guess I have issues, but not related to. Not related to what we're talking about, related to something else. The strings don't join on words directly. So I should be using word.text property. Okay. What is this music? Exactly your overlap words, ending at the sentence boundary you just used to close your first chunk, plus any leftover words past the boundary. The problem, the very last word in that trimmed overlap window is, by construction, a sentence ending word. That's literally how you pick the boundary, but when you immediately call find for a sentence buff on this new buffer, it scans forward, and the most common and in the common case finds that same word as the first sentence ender. Second, remove range strips your entire overlap window. You just try to preserve. Yeah. Yeah, no. Not the deliberate overlap. if you want to overlap snap to a sentence boundary, you don't need the second call at all. The first remove range already does that job. Find last sentence was your boundary, and overlap is your target window size. So just delete the second line. No, I don't think this is correct. Word to string instead of word to text. Okay, I agree with this one. So let's go fix that. To string, it should be text. And then up here, okay. What does select do? Is that like a map? Projects each element of a sequence into a new form. Yeah, it's like a map. Fallback behavior on face fallback. If no punctuation is found anywhere above, meaning the last index, which then your caller uses, remove the entire buffer. That's a real risk. If you hit a real long word of runs with no, yep, suddenly deletes everything and the actual text is lost rather than deferred. No. Once you remove the buggy second remove range call above the move. Sentence detection will misfire in academic text. Et al. ON and yeah. This one be carried for lower quality chunk boundaries. A chunk might get cut right after fig. We can do this. Why is it giving me so many issues? There's not. Read PDF and dispose document risks. No page boundary, page number tracking. Okay, I'm gonna say I don't agree with your first correction. My intention with the logic is the chunk, each chunk should be of size equal minimum of chunk size and size of buff until last sentence. If there is no sentence in buff, just take chunk size. Then The overlap should be of size equals to minimum of overlap, size of overlap until first sentence in overlap. So I think my code handles that correctly. I don't know if I explained it properly, but that's what I'm thinking, and I think that's what it does properly. Like we've been seeing, like here, it's going to the beginning of a sentence always. The thing he said about et al and that sort of stuff, we'll figure out later. Another thing I have to do is like stripping, like citations and stuff like that, like metadata, like this weird formatting and stuff like that. I need to figure out a way to clean this whole thing. Fair pushback, let me retrace this against your actions because I think the bug is more subtle than the overlap goes to 0. Size of overlap until first sentence. So far, just apply the overlap window instead of. Okay, this might be true. I might have wrote this wrong. Remove range. Why are we removing from the end though? No, we shouldn't be removing from the end. This is also wrong. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to remove from the prefix because I want to start at the first sentence possible. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do like maybe we can inquire about it. I don't think I'm gonna stay here until 8. I think I'm gonna end stream soon. Like just commit whatever I have in end stream. But next stream what we would be doing is figuring out how to divide the text into sections and like getting sections inside like a list of words like this and then putting them like chunking inside those sections instead of chunking the whole document. Why does this always take so long? You're right, almost helping to reduce profit. Your actual design is a mid chunk up to less sentence boundary, and within the overlap size, define the early sentence boundary, cut everything up to and including it. Sentence not a fragment. That's coherent and honestly pretty clean approach. Try to duplicate retracing my example or structure, blah 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 blah. So you agree with me now? Don't trim instead of trim everything. No, I think trim everything. Retracing sentence boundary, the close version, further analysis is not yet limited material that warrants you to start trying to call it a bug. I mean, I'm just fighting with the LLM at this point, but I wanted to understand what I'm trying to do. The entire check size has 0 sentence ending punctuation at all. Yeah, I want to trim everything if it's not the start of a sentence, because I know that if we ignore the overlap, it will be the beginning of a sentence anyway. Now what were the other issues it talked about? This, which we'll figure out. That we fixed. Okay. So let's let me ask my other question, which is how would one handle being able to separate the whole research paper PDF into their respective sections, i.e. abstract, methodology, etc. Read the documentation from PDF Big to see if there's anything useful there. I also would like to know if there's a way to remove metadata and other characters that don't mean much from the PDF. I'll give it an example. Like this section from a real PDF I'm parsing. Okay, well that does that. Let's check this fix I did with select and the text, see if that does anything. Maybe that actually fixes what I was trying to do, what I just asked about. Okay, give me a new chunk. Nope, we still have these. Good gut check and a secure real garbled output. That example is things will say, so what happens? Check access labels get flattened through native extraction. Let me cover both asks. Geometric primitives to build one layer like this. Letter words, text blocks, reading order. Since paragraphs geometrically based on the spacing pattern rather than blindly reading top to bottom. Okay. Classify blocks as headings versus body text. You do this. I like this. Block classifier proof concept for training a region classifier using PDFpig and MMLnet using like GBM. Okay, we could potentially use this. Filter by block shape and word signature and other text patterns. So you're computing text block from the page login through. You can flag a chart figure noise, geometry, and context signature. Okay, this gives us some point to start for next stream. Okay, that's good. So basically what it's saying is for section detection, there's like this thing which just grabs like a whole paragraph. So we can grab paragraphs until we find a heading, and a heading is distinguished by like finding if it's like bold or if it has like bigger font size and stuff like that. And if you see, or also if you see that it's something like that that also has the name like abstract or introduction or methodology or that stuff, then you know that's a header. So whenever you finish a chunk and then you start with like a header, then you be like, okay, just pick everything in between the last header we found and up to this header, and that's going to be one section, and we're going to put it in like one of our chunks. So that's how we're going to do the chunking by like sections. And then removing the garbled image text or fixing it is just I don't really understand it, how it works. I need to look into it, but like apparently there's some like geometries of the PDF that you can access with PDFpig. So like basically when it's saying when we get this thing, it's actually because it's vertical text and it's just reading it in a weird way. So this is supposed to say percentage, but it's reading it like this instead. So there's a way to deal with that within PDFpig, which I'm just gonna probably copy from this because I don't understand most of it. But okay, we'll figure that out next time. For now, let's commit our changes. So look at status, git add, period, git commit -m. Chunking is now sensitive to sentences. Is now up to the nearest sentence. Including the overlap. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, that was good. We advanced a little, not as much as I hoped to, but I feel like an hour and a half is just very little time to actually build features. But we built one whole feature. Next thing was we're gonna build the second whole feature, and then hopefully we'll get to the vector database. If not, I might make the executive decision of just stream longer that day to actually get to the vector database stuff, or maybe just leave it until next week. But anyway, thank you guys for joining today, and I'll see you tomorrow to do some more lead code.